What comes to mind when you hear the Library of Alexandria? A majestic building, scrolls stretching as far as the eye can see, containing all the knowledge of the ancient world. And then, a massive, catastrophic fire, a tragic bonfire of human wisdom, often blamed on one man, Julius Caesar. It's a powerful story, a simple tale of destruction. But what if I told you that story is mostly a myth? The real story of the library's decline is far more complex, and frankly, far more interesting than a single dramatic blaze. Let's travel back in time. The Library of Alexandria wasn't just one building. It was a sprawling research complex, part of a larger institution called the Museum, or Institution of the Muses. Founded around the 3rd century BCE by the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, it was the ancient world's equivalent of a top-tier university and research institute combined. Scholars from all over the known world flocked here to study, debate, and write. They had access to an unprecedented collection of texts, with estimates ranging from 40,000 to 400,000 scrolls. Think about that. It was the intellectual heart of the Hellenistic world. They weren't just storing knowledge, they were creating it. It's where Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with stunning accuracy, where Euclid wrote his Elements of Geometry, and where the Hebrew Bible was first translated into Greek. It was, without a doubt, a beacon of human intellect. So, where does the big fire story come from? It starts with Julius Caesar. In 48 BCE, Caesar was in Alexandria, caught up in a civil war. During a naval battle in the harbor, his forces set fire to enemy ships. Some ancient writers, like Plutarch, mention that this fire spread to the docks and destroyed a warehouse containing scrolls. Notice the key word, warehouse. These were likely scrolls intended for export or storage, not necessarily the main collection of the library itself. While it was a significant loss, it wasn't the apocalyptic event we often imagine. There's no contemporary account that says the great library burned to the ground. In fact, the geographer Strabo visited Alexandria decades later, around 20 BCE, and wrote about the museum as a functioning institution, a place where scholars still lived and worked. He even mentioned its library. So, if Caesar didn't deliver the fatal blow, who or what did? The truth is, the Library of Alexandria didn't die in a single blaze. It suffered a slow, painful decline over centuries, a death by 1,000 cuts. The first major blow came not from an external enemy, but from within. In 145 BCE, the ruler Ptolemy VIII, nicknamed Physcon, or Potbelly, came to power. He was a tyrant who, in a fit of paranoia and political purging, expelled all foreign scholars from Alexandria. Imagine a world-class university suddenly firing its entire international faculty. This act ripped the intellectual heart out of the museum. The vibrant community of inquiry was shattered. Knowledge isn't just about scrolls on a shelf. It's about the people who read, debate, and build upon them. This political purge was arguably a more devastating blow than any single fire. As the centuries rolled on, the city of Alexandria itself became a hotbed of political and religious turmoil. Roman rule brought new priorities, and funding for intellectual pursuits like the museum likely dwindled. Budgets were cut. The acquisition of new scrolls slowed to a trickle. Old scrolls made of fragile papyrus deteriorated without proper care and recopying. Neglect is a silent destroyer, but it is just as effective as fire. Think of it like a garden. If you stop watering it, stop tending to the plants, it doesn't matter how beautiful it once was. Weeds will grow and eventually it will wither and die. The library was no different. Then came the military conflicts. In the 3rd century CE, the Roman Emperor Aurelian was trying to reconquer the city from the breakaway Palmyrene Empire. During the fighting, the neighborhood where the library was located, the Bruchaion district, was reportedly devastated. This conflict likely destroyed significant parts of what remained of the main library. But even then, that wasn't the end of the story. There was a daughter library, located in a temple known as the Serapeum. This became the new center for scholarship in Alexandria. For a time, the flame of knowledge, though flickering, was kept alive here. This brings us to the final and perhaps most symbolic act in this long drama. By the late 4th century CE, the Roman Empire had become officially Christian. Paganism was on the decline, and its temples were seen as symbols of a forbidden past. In 391 CE, urged on by the Patriarch Theophilus of Alexandria, a Christian mob was given permission by the emperor to destroy the Serapeum. Their goal was to demolish the pagan temple, a powerful political and religious statement. The library within it was collateral damage. While some ancient accounts focus on the destruction of idols, later writers dramatized this event as the final, definitive destruction of the last great collection of books. Was this the moment the last scroll was burned? Probably not. Many scrolls had likely been removed, lost, or had already decayed by this point. But the destruction of the Serapeum was the symbolic nail in the coffin. It represented the final triumph of a new worldview over the old, one that, at the time, had little use for the pagan knowledge housed within. The story gets even murkier. Centuries later, in the 7th century, a tale emerged about the Arab conquest of Alexandria. In this story, the Caliph Omar is asked what to do with the books. He supposedly declared, "If what is written in them agrees with the Quran, they are superfluous. If it disagrees, they are heretical. So, destroy them." The scrolls were then allegedly used to heat the city's bathhouses for 6 months. It's a fantastic story, but nearly all modern historians agree it's a complete fabrication, invented centuries after the fact, likely as a piece of anti-Islamic propaganda. By the time of the Arab conquest in 642 CE, there was likely no great library left to burn. So, the popular image of a single tragic fire is a myth. The Library of Alexandria wasn't murdered. It slowly faded away due to a combination of factors: budget cuts, political purges, intellectual neglect, urban warfare, and religious strife. The story of one big fire is simpler, more dramatic, and it gives us a clear villain to blame. The real story is messier, more human, and it holds a far more important lesson. It teaches us that knowledge and civilization are fragile things. They aren't just destroyed by fire and swords, but by apathy, intolerance, and the defunding of education and intellectual pursuits. The true tragedy of Alexandria isn't that the scrolls burned. It's that people stopped caring about what was written on them. It's a cautionary tale that remains incredibly relevant today. What do you think? Does knowing the real story change how you see the Library of Alexandria? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's a fascinating piece of history with so many layers to uncover. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the mysteries of the past. See you next time.